This is not my account. What are the best things you've stumbled across that people forgot to log out of? I once walked up to an ATM at the Staples Center and it was blinking, "Would you like to make another transaction?" I pressed no and it spit the card out. I read the card and yelled down the corridor, "Hey Bob Smith," and a guy just about to get on the escalator turns around all confused until I hold his card up and he comes sprinting toward me. He was very grateful. The inverse of this happened to me a few years ago when Facebook was just starting to get big. I had made an account then completely forgotten it existed. My roommate at the time figured out the password and trolled the heck out of the account. I didn't find out about it until I went back to try Facebook again a year and a half later, and the account had hundreds of friends from high school and college who all thought that Master P and Insane Clown Posse were my favorite bands. I had a cat when I was young. I called it Calculator Cat because I didn't know the difference between calculator and calico, and it wasn't either of those things. Anyway, we renamed him Master P because he pee on everything. I had to shave him multiple times and he died of old age. Live on in the afterlife, Master P. I found my roommate's Facebook open once when I was using his computer. I changed all of his information to match that of another friend. Name, birthday, interests, everything, and that friend changed all his Facebook information to match my roommate's old profile. The look on his face when he tried to figure out why he kept logging into someone else's profile was great. My boss left his computer logged in when he went to a meeting. It was a WinXP machine, so I changed the login music. I overlaid a Futurama audio grab from Fear of a Bot Planet onto the original music, so it still started normally, then cut to the splice. He never changed it back, even a year later, and to this day whenever I hear a XP machine login I mentally hear the Futurama splice as well. In the Air Force it was pretty much standard to screw with someone's computer if they left it logged in. I'd open up Word and set up fake autocorrect options. They also apply in Outlook. So they'd be typing in something like "and," then it would autocorrect into "I like little boys" or something to that effect. Either that or you could autocorrect their name to misspell itself. I did a similar thing to a roommate's computer, changed it so that anytime he typed because it would autocorrect because I frequently yearn for sodomy. He was not impressed. In my lab it's the usual, if you stay logged into your email you pay donuts on Friday. Thing is, it happened so much that we now have a calendar to note who brings donuts when, and the Donut Fridays are booked till May now. My girlfriend forgot to log out of her email, so I couldn't resist reading them. I found out she really loves me and speaks well of me behind my back. A part of me was disappointed. In related news, I found out my girlfriend, now ex, was advertising erotic services on Craigslist. I was a little more than disappointed. Back in high school most of us had laptops, and during breaks or free periods, we'd be working and hanging out at the same time, so it was a pretty casual environment. Oftentimes, girls would come and ask you if they could check their Facebook, to which you'd agree. So I would open up a new tab and give them the computer. When they were finished, they'd just close the tab and give it back to us, and then I would restore the tab, still logged into her account. Instead of doing the classic move where you compare yourself to a deity in their status, we'd check their inbox. You would not believe the sort of crap girls talk about. Sexual experiences in detail. One girl lost her virginity and was talking about it to 3 of her friends. Apparently the poor guy couldn't get it up, and when he did, she didn't feel anything. I was at an airport in Europe, I think in Prague for New Year's Eve, when I happened across an internet cafe that offered free usage. If you bought a coffee, I grabbed a coffee and jumped on an available terminal, where I noticed the previous user hadn't logged out of MSN. I immediately started chatting to people on his contact list and managed to determine that he was from Birmingham in England. After a few minutes of general messing about, someone signed in with the same surname as part of the email address, with a male first name. I took a punt and said, "Hey bro," and sure enough it was the person's brother. I chatted for a short while and then said, "Hey man, you got any money? I really need to borrow £134.85. Can you lend it to me?" He was reluctant, but I managed to get him to agree to come around tomorrow with the money. I got quite a kick out of imagining this dude's brother showing up unannounced. offering the very precise amount of £134.85. I like your sense of humor. One time my friend was logged into Facebook, so I added a fluffy mustache to his profile picture and joined the group and left it so it said Bob has left the group. I have never had sex with a goat. When my little brother was a sophomore in high school, I had to use his computer while mine was being repaired. He didn't bother to log off of AIM, and he got an IM from his girlfriend saying, "My parents are gone tonight, you should come over later." I replied with, "Nah, can't tonight. South Park is on." Are you joking? We almost never get to be alone. Me, yeah, I'm good. It's a new episode. Can't really miss it. Plus there's Ben and Jerry's in the freezer, and if I leave my brothers will eat the rest. Then I log off. At first I thought that was a dong move, but didn't pay attention to the fact that you are the older brother. Therefore you have the right and obligation to do so. I woke up one morning with my phone logged into somebody else's Facebook account. I have no idea who the person is. We share no friends in common. She lives in a different city to me and I have no idea why or how my phone logged into her profile overnight. I am still logged in and have been for over a month while I figure out what to do with the situation. It is too bizarre an opportunity to pass up. I want to confuse the heck out of people without doing anything really mean. So far I'm torn between just casually replying to friends' comments with short, perfectly reasonable and in character statements, making her question her memory, and professing love for clearly platonic friends. I'm also considering waiting till 3 AM then posting status updates about sleep typing. Any suggestions? Reddit? I like the casual status updates and the sleep typing. Perhaps do both so she is really confused. My dad used to block everything on the internet. Everything. So of course, I had to put a stop to it. Fortunately for me, he saved his passwords in Firefox. So I got the password for the router, where the blocking occurred, and logged on. Or at least, I tried to. Didn't work. Later, though, he changed the settings and forgot to log off. I changed them to my liking. He found out and changed the password. I said, "Why bother? I'll figure out how to get on again." He didn't realize I hadn't actually figured out the password. He said, "Alright, go for it," and let me try it while he stood just across the room. I knew it was a long shot, but I typed in the old password. It worked, and I showed him. He gave up and just told me not to look at P. I did anyway. I would have just done hard resets on the router. Today I realized I left my PC in the school computer lab logged into my account because I sat down to use it today and found that my wallpaper was replaced with David Hasselhoff modeling underwear. After having a laugh with friends I put it back to what it should have been, a bunny with a pancake on its head, like God intended. My friend left his email open. We wrote his GF, who was out of town for a month. "Your cat is dead. I hit it with the car when I was drunk. I'm so sorry. We'll talk when you get home." She called him crying. He was just confused at first, but they eventually figured out what had happened. He came over to my place. Pee off, but he got over it and agreed it was funny. The next day, he accidentally ran over his girlfriend's cat and killed it. I smell balls. Funny though. Used to work as a supervisor in tech support for a large computer company that rhymes with a certain fiery underworld where evil people go after they die. Standard policy was to lock your system anytime you were away from your desk. Tech support agents aren't always the brightest. We would have games with it. Send an email to Ziz people with "I love ponies" and a pic of My Little Pony. Maybe screenshot the desktop and set it as the background, then delete the icons. Or one of my favorites was Ctrl+Shift+Print Screen. It changes the display, in Windows that is, to high contrast black. Even when you manually adjust the settings back they are still fricked up. Have to use Ctrl+Shift+Print Screen to fix it. I got to the point where a coworker would be turned around talking to someone and I could change their desktop to Hello Kitty and be gone without them noticing. Thus the birth of the Hello Kitty Bandit. I found a Craigslist login for selling books. I changed it for free BJs, then felt guilty an hour later and just deleted the whole thing. I also installed Chrome on a public PC and imported info from IE. This leads Chrome to show all logins and PWS under the wrench. Didn't know if this was normal, but I showed the guy next to me and he thought I was some super hacker. People think I'm a super hacker when I pull up the command prompt and reset ipconfig. Buddy left his Facebook open, so I updated his status saying he was gay. I wanted to be the 1 billion person to do this. I think you get a free Prius or something. Someone did that to a friend of mine on Facebook. This friend has a daughter and had just recently divorced his wife. He also doesn't use Facebook much, so this new status was up there for a while and it caused quite a bit of chaos. It said, "I've decided to come out of the closet. I couldn't keep it from my wife anymore. This is who I am and I can't deny it." Quite the butthole move. One time I went to the drive-thru ATM and an older gentleman in front of me didn't log out of his account when he drove off, and when I pulled up after he left it still had the screen to withdraw cash, check balance, etc. I was like, wow, this guy just did this, so I just logged out of his account for him. Figured it was my good deed for the day. Borrowing my roommate's girlfriend's laptop usually always ends the same way. 1. Updating her Facebook status to talk about how awesome she thinks I am. 2. Leaving Goat's Tub General Empathy open on one of her Firefox tabs. You'd think she'd stop letting me use it one of these days. She enjoys it. After a party I had, I noticed someone had logged me out of Gmail and logged themselves in on one of my computers. The computer was in a roped-off area of the house, so to speak, so guests shouldn't have been there. The person who logged in was some chick who was a friend of a friend that I have never met before. Seemed relatively normal. I wasn't trying to snoop, but on the first page of her inbox were a lot of emails from Craigslist. I drilled down a bit and found this girl was whoring herself out on the side to random dudes. Reading through the emails, it was more of a stupid girl meeting random creeps than a professional prostitute. I set up a Gmail filter to copy and forward all incoming messages to another email account. I haven't checked it in a long time, but this girl was doing some serious whoring, I can tell you that much. Boss left his computer logged in and went for lunch. I took a screenshot of his background, flipped it upside down and set it as his background. Then I moved all his icons off the desktop and flipped his screen rotation, Ctrl+Alt+ up down. So his upside down wallpaper looked the right way up, but his mouse seemed reversed. When he moved up it would go down. When he moved left it would go right, and so on. Changed my sister's Facebook network to Abuja. She still gets marriage proposals. They got me back and changed me to a Chinese university, which is where I found out that Phoenix Wang is a real name. The Macs in my office wouldn't log you out of your email even if you click log out. You had to then also restart the browser. So, when I logged into what I thought was my email account, I was surprised to see all these emails from some dude I hadn't seen before. He was apparently quite enamored with me and enjoyed our date the other night. I was horrified. Then I realized what had happened. Then I realized it was my friend's account. My male friend's account. He was totally not out at this point. Later in the week he asked me if he could borrow my stud finder and I said sure, as long as you're not going to bring it to a club with you. LOL, it's been years. He's still keeping quiet about being gay, and still doesn't quite know how to respond to my occasional semi-ambiguous insinuations. Dude, come clean, he is probably dying to be able to tell somebody. Roommate left his email open. In it, many emails from cougars, men, girls, and boys. Long story short, my roommate was selling himself over Craigslist to various people. I think the best line was, "I love to swallow big loads from old men." Awesome awkward. Unix systems in the computer lab in the Stone Age. Find someone left themselves logged in, put the shell command logout into their Dart login file. A friend's roommate left his email open and left the room for a long while. Everyone hated his roommate. So, when our friend alerted us to his leaving, we strolled in, read through the roommate's long email to his parents, and snuck in a sentence in the middle confessing his newly discovered homosexuality. Not true, as the guy was a massive homophobe. Anyway, something happened to make the roommate walk around 4 weeks with a scowl on his face, and more frequent visits from his folks. Snuck in a sentence in the middle confessing his newly discovered homosexuality. Not true, as the guy was a massive homophobe. You know what they say about massive homophobes? Back in the college days with Pine, it was common to find logged in accounts in the computer lab. My roomie and I went one day and he sat down to a logged in terminal. He started laughing maniacally for several minutes, then eventually it died down to occasional giggles. After we left, he told me it was some girl's account and she had some really hot and steamy email conversations with her BF, and that he forwarded most of them to her mother. During college, I walked up to a computer in the library that someone's Wells Fargo account was still logged on. I logged them out. Good deed of the day. Whenever I'm walking around the shopping district part of town with nothing to do, I stop by the Verizon wireless store and check the BlackBerry phones for Facebook MySpace accounts that are still logged in. I proceed to do rude things with their accounts. After my friend started sending my ex-girlfriend's text message from my phone every time I left the room, he stupidly forgot to log out of his email on my laptop. When I went on to check my messages, his open account popped up. I wrote a really heartfelt email from his account that went something like this. Hey, I know we are not overly close, but I really need to get something off my chest that I am scared of telling anyone else. I have been having dreams about my male housemate for a long time now, and it has changed the way I feel about him. I am fighting the feeling, but I know I am gay. I have been fighting it since I was young, but need to tell someone now. It has got too much. I don't know why I chose you to confide in, but please don't tell anyone I did. It feels better knowing someone anyone knows. Is that strange? I hope we can keep this between us. Thank you. After I did this, I added the maximum people to the send list, and this is what I thought was really clever. I BCC'd them, so everyone it was sent to thought it was an individual email, not a mass email. A couple of days went by before my friend called me screaming down the phone. Did you do this? I told him I didn't know what he was talking about. He explained to me that lots of people had been treating him strangely and saying things like, "Are you okay?" and "Good for you." A tutor at his university even gave him extensions to his deadlines because he was going through a hard time. One of his gay tutors even gave him his phone number so they could go out. For months people were coming up to me saying, "Did you hear Phil is gay?" and we always knew anyway. It went on for ages. Even 2 years later, a friend of ours still thought it was real. He was so mad he shaved half my head when I was asleep, which I deserved. But we are still good friends now, even though some people out there probably still think he is gay. Hilarious. The guy before me didn't log out of the ATM, so I could have emptied his bank account. Instead, I logged off without thinking. Also, set several friends as dating me on Facebook, regardless of their sexual orientations. Orange for actual karma. Friend of mine forgot to log off his Facebook. We changed gender, date of birth, and posted about 30 stupid sayings on her status. Examples: children are like kids. Everyone can make an omelette with eggs, but it takes a genius to do it without them. He who eats today, laughs tomorrow. It isn't forgotten what is written behind the ear. No point demanding summer during Christmas. A blind man will never thank you for binoculars. And yeah, she still doesn't know about us changing her birthday. I left myself logged into my email on a publicly accessible computer. A friend of mine found it, changed the time on the machine, and sent me a message from myself stating, "This is you from the future. It is absolutely crucial that next time you see your friend you give him $20. A couple years ago I had a roommate A, who was kind of an butthole. He constantly had this one girl over who annoyed the heck out of us. When he left for class, she would sleep in his bed or watch our TV. It got really old having her over all the time. So one time he left and me and my other roommate B, got to his computer before it went to the screensaver and logged out. Roommate B wrote a program that was triggered when Firefox was opened. When Firefox was closed, it would then change his desktop background to wall of vagina. Google it. He then named the process of chost eggs so roommate A couldn't figure out what was wrong. Eventually roommate B removed it, but watching roommate A have to go back to his desktop background selection anytime he closed Firefox was pretty good. Don't Google it. Whenever I'm in the Apple store, I like to check Facebook to see if people are still logged in. If I'm in a good mood, I'll change their status to X shouldn't leave him herself logged in at the Apple store. If I'm in a bad immature mood, it'll be more like X loves dong. Dong dong dong. Many years ago while working a tedious data entry job, a co-worker and I would always set up balloons and streamers for people's birthdays. One night when I went over to someone's desk who had a birthday the following day, I found that he had not logged off of his computer. What I did was find someone who had speakers I could borrow, connected them to this computer and taped them to the underside of the desk. Then I changed the startup sound to a WAV file of Marilyn Monroe singing "Happy Birthday Mr. President" and turned up the volume as loud as it would go. Then I logged off. The next day when this guy logged into his computer, it played the song loud enough for the whole office to hear. People rose away were getting up to see who was causing all the racket. Needless to say, this guy was very embarrassed at all the attention he got. If someone leaves their Facebook logged on, change their birth date to about 1 week from that time. They will be totally confused when a million people wish them a happy birthday when it is nowhere near their birthday. I went to check my fantasy football on a public computer and someone else was logged into their team. I put most of his team up for trade. I still feel bad about it today. Kind of. What a dong. Messing with someone's email or Facebook account is one thing, but to mess with a dude's FF team is, well, let's just say if heck existed, there would be a special spot reserved for you. Bestiality. A coworker of mine sat down at her computer to find a bestiality website in her history. Curious, she clicked on it and found out her boyfriend had an account at this website and was still logged in. They just got a new puppy a few days prior to her discovery. I was a sneaky bastard, and while my then current GF was in the shower, I looked at her Trillion IM log with an ex of hers who I knew she still talked to and I had uneasy feelings about. Come to find out, the B had been his little e-slave and the conversations were so freaking ridiculous. I mean seriously, like a typical dominatrix master-slave relationship, but as far as she admitted later, it was only online. Anytime she'd take pictures for me, she'd send them to him too. Crap like that. I ended up breaking up with her about 6 months later after trying to work it out but couldn't get over it. We had been together essentially 3 years. As soon as I left her, she started for real dating him and they're engaged now. Frick be named Ashley. They're all nuts. Okay, not all of them. They are succubi. Upvoted for truth. A girl named Ashley kicked me in the shin in 4th grade. It really hurt. I once worked with a guy who would frick with my computer in some annoying way every time I left it unlocked, which unfortunately was often. When he finally forgot to lock his one day, I changed the auto spell check in Outlook to change there and there to there. He was really gunning for promotion at the time, so he was constantly sending off mini essay progress reports to the higher ups. Hehe. A phone fell on my head at a concert in Seattle a few years ago. I held onto it, not sure if I was going to take it as my own or try to find the owner. I turned off the phone to save battery, but when I turned it on after the show, I got a call from someone. I answered out of some strange curiosity and it turned out to be the phone's owner. He was in front of the venue, so I ran over and gave it to him. He offered me $20 but I refused and he thanked me. Felt pretty good. Didn't remember this story until now. My boss would leave his desk with his Mac computer on and unsecured. What was he thinking? One day, back in '94, my 3-year-old daughter was visiting the office, so I had her record something special for me. I reconfigured the boss's computer so that whenever he received a new email it would play my daughter saying, "Daddy needs more money." She gave a really nice emphasis on money. Yes, I did get a raise that year. My stepmother has a master password for everything. On her computer was her Facebook account as well as 2 of my brothers, all logged in, remembered and ready to go. The wall-to-wall conversations they had with each other that night were shocking. Go on. Back in the day, we used Hatornet. When a friend stayed logged in, changed his preference to gay, which he wasn't, and sent out winks to all the twinks that were on. Next time he checked his mail, he had many twink winks back. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.